In an unfortunate incident, the office of the All Nagaland Taxi Association in Kohima fell victim to an act of vandalism on Saturday evening at approximately 6 o'clock. During the incident, the General Secretary of ANTA was reportedly held at gunpoint by unknown miscreants. Following the incident, 3 suspects were apprehended and taken into custody at the North Police Station, Kohima. Meanwhile, ANTA Headquarter President Jessevitio Solo expressed his discontent over the attack and assured that the association does not feel threatened. He also said that the All Nagaland Taxi Association will strongly stand by its resolution, one government, one tax, and added that ANTA will not remain silent over this incident and that the ANTA units across all districts will stand united against this vandalism and will stand by one government, one tax. It is worth noting that during its presidential meeting in Zunubuto on 25th March 2022, ANTA took a resolute stance to cease paying taxes until the one government, one tax policy is implemented. The association reaffirmed this decision in March 2023, underscoring their unwavering commitment to pay taxes to only one government. And now to talk about this unfortunate incident and also the main topic, which is one government, one tax. We are being joined by our associate editor, Almuli, and he'll be joining us on the special newsroom, and we'll be trying to assess what difficulties Nagas have to face when it comes to one government, one tax. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me on this exclusive newsroom. So, sir, coming back to the incident that happened, which was really unfortunate, the office of the ANTA was vandalized. So, the word vandalism is doing quite the rounds. I mean, every day we are hearing vandalism incidents happening from our neighboring state, and in Nagaland too, this incident is getting quite common. I mean, this is, I think, most probably the second act of vandalism in about a month's time. So, is vandalism something new in Nagaland, and is this the new method of showing disagreement?
Yeah, Akivi, back in the day when we were growing up, the elders and our parents used to tell us that one thing you do not do is vent your anger on things that are apart from you. For example, you're not supposed to break or damage any part of your house. You're also not to for example, when you're angry, you're not supposed to throw plates and cups and dishes, especially, and you're also not supposed to curse at any tool that you use. So that was the kind of culture that we grew up from, because the whole idea was not necessarily about expressing your violence. It was the idea of the consequences of violence that you will have to suffer if you do something rash. So those days, when they told you that you should not throw your plates and cups in anger, it was based on the idea that the consequences of your action would be that in the future you will disrespect your own livelihood, which means it will bring about economic difficulties for you. You will face poverty. You will not be able to make money. So that was the kind of culture we grew up from. But in this generation, times have changed, and especially we have got a new generation of youth coming up, and we have got people with different mindsets who think that violence in any form is justified if it meets their end. So we have been hearing about vandalism this, vandalism that, but in any case, whatever the case, vandalism in any form, in any way, for any cause is not something to be condemned in any way. It should only be condemned, but never be condemned. And I think this also, on a side note, reflects how the government in Nagaland somehow has shifted the security responsibilities that is put in place bespoke to the citizens' welfare, and our focus has always been toward the angle of Naga political issues, towards schemes and projects and inaugurations. But if you look deep into police data, criminal prosecution, crimes in Nagaland, especially during the about 10 to 15 years, I think this is an area that we really need to look into. When you have people running about vandalizing offices and threatening people in the name of nationalism, tax, extortion, or ownership of land and offices, I think it also shows that people are not really taking into account the consequences of their actions, because there is no authority that is looking over them to check their actions. So there is no fear of the law in that sense, Akive.
All right, sir. I mean, looking at the reports, I mean, it was alleged that the General Secretary who was present at the office was first initially asked to pay a yearly tax, that too early. And then after denial, he was then, it's even more unfortunate that he was, under gunpoint. So, I mean, like, sir, if you take into instance, I mean, the cause is for the Nagas. All right, sir, the cause is for the Nagas. The action is done by the Nagas. And then ultimately, the suffering too is borne by the normal Nagas. So, sir, when will this ever change, sir?
Yearly tax. By the way, I don't know of any tax by the government of Nagaland that the citizens have to pay called yearly tax, right, Akivi? Do you pay anything like that?
Not really, sir.
And do you know of any organizations or associations or unions or any kind of community, non-governmental group that levies yearly tax?
Not really, sir.
Because if I'm not mistaken, yearly tax is not something that is levied by anyone other than non-state actors in Nagaland.
Yes.
So, okay. So anyway, I think first thing, there are a lot of issues involved here, Akivi. First thing, the government, I think we will always come back to the government when we talk about security and welfare of citizens. First thing is that we have got too many people, too many organizations exacting this and that tax for whatever reason in Nagaland, and this has been going on for as long as the Naga political issue has been going on, Akivi. First thing, so the sense of security is not always there, and there is no guarantee that this practice will not continue. Second, the lack of public opinion. Our citizens are what we now call on social media keyboard tigers, or newspaper tigers. But actually, these are violation of our rights. We are paying taxes that we do not get services in return for. And these are assault on our freedom, livelihood freedoms. These are assault on our welfare security. So people don't protest, people don't write to the newspapers, people don't express and rise up to the occasion to put their foot down when there is a violation of their rights. So second is the failure of the public to speak up for themselves against this kind of injustice that is perpetrated on them by non-state actors or even government or even community organizations. So there are two things here. First is the government's failure to actually create some kind of a mechanism that will assure the citizens their security and protection of their rights. First thing. Second is the failure of the public themselves to stand up to this occasion, to stand for their rights. So when you have two things going on together at the same time for the past 70 years, it is very uncertain that the practice will not continue for the next 70 years again, because you have already created a framework where you are giving an opportunity for illegal elements, illegal taxes, illegal organizations, and illegal actions to take place. So the framework has already been created the past 20, 30 years ago. So now we are thriving on that platform, and we have always carried the voice of silence ahead that this particular system will keep on continuing. So for now, I don't think we will see an end to it, but all power to the All Nagaland Taxi Association for taking posturing on their rights also in regard to taxes, Akive.
All right, so now coming to the one government, one tax. I mean, HornbillTV also spoke to a successful entrepreneur in which he has given due discourse and also he has given due gratitude to the movement that is taken up by the so-called Naga nationalists. I mean, like he has said that willingly they are willing to give those taxes, but then various factions, I mean, numerous factions come and demand numerous taxes. So he also talked about if the parallel government could also streamline their taxation process. So, sir, this is my question to you, and do you ever think that the parallel government can ever come into an understanding that they can actually formulate one tax?
That's a difficult question, because you cannot streamline something which does not belong to you, Akivi. We can streamline the taxes of the PHE department, the taxes being levied by the Dimapur Municipal Council. You can streamline the taxation system that the state government has in the financial framework of the state. But you cannot streamline a tax system that is not, technically speaking, that is not mandated by the constitution. And but to be fair to the Naga nationalist groups, those days when we were growing up, and even my moms, my elder brothers, my immediate elder brother stage, that age group, they know that those days there was no taxation. In fact, community members, especially those in the villages, they used to voluntarily, by their own heart, voluntarily, willingly gave food, shelter, and water, and even medical attention whenever required to the Naga underground groups whenever they emerged from the jungles and they took rest in the towns and villages, Agivi. This is something the younger generation might not know. Everything was voluntary. Everything was given out of the heart. But these days, it is not like that. They bring their guns to you. They bring their nationalist statements to you saying that we are obliged to give taxes. I think this is very wrong because technically speaking, taxes are not levied on your own citizens if you read Roman and Greek history, Akivi. Yes. You levy taxes only on people who are not part of your community. And I'm not saying, don't tax the Naga people, tax the other non-Nagas here. I am just saying that within this system, within this construct, we shouldn't be taxing each other because tax is only for those who are subject to your rule. For example, those days, Greek citizens were not taxed by the Greek authorities because they were Greeks. Only the Jewish people were taxed by the Greek and Roman authorities. So that is how tax works. Anyway, back to your question, you cannot streamline something that does not belong to you in the first place. And second is, how many Naga nationalist groups do we have, Akivi?
So I've lost count.
17 or 18, right?
Yes, sir, something to the lines of that, sir.
Yeah, my friend Peter Rutsa from Kohima, NDBP, I think he listed out about 17 or 18 NSCN, NFGN, and NNC groups. So how are you going to streamline it if there was ever an occasion for you to do that? Second, how are you going to divide it? And third, who are going to pay for it if like 20 nationalist groups say, oh, we are going to charge 1,000 rupees for every house across the about 40 lakh people in Nagaland. So who is going to be able to afford to pay that? And even if we could, how are you going to justify paying it to not the government of India or Nagaland, but Naga nationalist group? Because if you pay them, the Indian military is going to come for you. The police is going to come for you because whether you like it or not, whether it's not about ideology, it is about constitutionality of your actions. So the idea of streamlining here seems a little complex, Akivi, but as things stand right now, I hope that somehow even the nationalist groups will understand that the Naga people are suffering. We are still a very salaried economy, and I think, like I said, now it is more expensive for us to spend on auto rickshaws and pork instead of spending on our school children's fees. It's very expensive now, and I don't know how the Naga people are going to survive the next 50 years.
Well, now talking more about this one tax and how entrepreneurship can build with the environment full of multiple taxation. So, sir, now coming back to the topic, I mean, like the government of Nagaland is really keen on promoting entrepreneurship in Nagaland. So, I mean, like, sir, those that have the money and resources, they give it willingly.
Right.
But those that have the determination to work hard, but they don't have the money and resources, right, what is the future for these entrepreneurs, especially in their home state of Nagaland, sir?
I think the future... I think the answer is very obvious, Akivi, here. Interestingly, just 2 days ago, I was commenting on the Chief Minister Nifirio's Twitter handle, where I think the tweet was about promoting local entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So I replied to it saying that I think it is very important for us to garner the support of external investors to work with local enterprises so that you can contribute to the development of the economic framework of the local economy actually. So I agreed with that. So I also said, but then again, if we are going to build a framework, then we have to first look at the foundation, the financial foundation, especially those who are starting out new in the field of enterprise. Right now, they are paying tons and tons of taxes. They are paying fees to the banks. They have to wait for government subsidies. If they don't get subsidies, they have to make do on their own. Besides the loan they get from their banks, they have to search for additional resources to build up their businesses. And on the top of it all, you are paying what you call business taxes, shop and establishment taxes to people who are not the state government or the central government actually.
Yes.
So these are the ones that are unable to, these are the ones that have the motivation and the spirit to build a livelihood on their own, but they are not able to do so because of the taxes. I have mentioned this before. I had a friend who had an electronic store right at Dobinala. So she could barely sell like 10,000 or 15,000 worth of goods in a month. But it seems members of 3 or 4 underground factions used to come and collect at least 50,000 a month for as tax. So she closed shop and went away. And I know a lot of people in my, I know a lot of young people in my region who try to set up small businesses, but they could not because as soon as they start business, a lot of hands coming in, these tags, that tags. So I think the government of Nagaland is doing its best to promote local entrepreneurs. Yes, we are building markets. We are also providing market linkages through networking forums, through business forums, and we are also working with business community organizations, especially the industries and organizations like the Business Association of Nagas. We are working on this, but I think we are only treating the symptoms, Akivi.
Yes.
We are not treating the disease, we are treating the symptoms. Of course, we can get, the government will give money and the local entrepreneurs will start building their businesses, but it's not the building that they require. It is the sustainability and the long-term objectives that the local entrepreneurs have that have to be addressed. And if you want to ensure your business is successful and give back, then I think it is important for us not to treat the symptoms, but look at the disease. Go right down to the root of the disease and treat it, and only then I think we can have a semblance of anything that might be called successful local economy in that sense, Akive.
All right, so I mean, like at the start of this topic, I mean, you spoke about the consequences of your violent actions. So I mean, like, sir, yesterday's event was the All Nagaland Taxi Association facing vandalism, getting threatened and being their office being vandalized. I mean, sir, the All Nagaland Taxi Association is quite a premier organization. It represents the taxi associations of 16 districts. So, sir, ultimately, if the ANTA, because of this incident, they take the move, they take the call to actually stop taxi services between districts, don't you think ultimately it is the normal Nagas, the public Nagas that suffer? Who is going to now take them from one district to another? And also, as a Naga nationalist, do you think it's just that your actions only lead to more deterioration of quality of life for our Naga public, sir?
Yeah, definitely. The consequences are far-reaching, and in any case, it affects the common citizens, Akive. Yes. Of course, the taxi associations and the auto rickshaw associations, the business communities, they are not, how do I put it? I mean, there have been controversies in the past in that regard also, and they are not really wholly also. But in this case, I think I will give it to them that if something should happen to any of those guys, it is the people that is going to suffer, because when you have like 5,000-6,000 taxis that are who are actually functioning as the lifeline of transport for community citizens, community and the citizens across the state, then I think the impact of whatever actions those miscreants have committed will be very, very visible, tangible, and they are going to be widespread. So in this case, I think it will also be good if the nationalist groups will also just try to, and I am sure, because I think we have had conversations in the past,
Yes.
especially from the top leaderships, that it's not always from the top establishment
Yes.
that is putting their hand in this whole pie of taxes. It is sometimes generally just cadres, small workers, foot soldiers in the towns who actually go about demanding taxes and this and that from. So it is not always from the establishment level. So I think it will be good if the nationalist organizations also take into account the actions of their cadres, so that their actions will not later impact the life of the citizens again. Because I think the life of being a Naga person right now is quite hard, Akivi, especially in this age and times, at this juncture in our lives in Nagaland. So I think it's good. It will be good if the organizations also take accountability for their cadres' action and assure the citizens that there should be a level of trust within the two. That's what I'm trying to say.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for joining me on this special newsroom and explaining to us and giving us details as to how the whole environment of entrepreneurship and also how the whole principle of one tax and one government will actually do in Nagaland.
Thank
you
you for having me, Akive.
All right, so that was our associate editor, Al Nguli, and then he has just explained the history and also the background as to what Nagas are actually suffering, or rather undertaking, and also the fact that with so many budding entrepreneurs, how can Nagaland actually help these entrepreneurs when there are so many taxes that are going around every day? And also this incident that took place yesterday at the ANTA office, the All Nagaland Taxi Association, the Kohima headquarters president, Jessivitio Solo, has taken a very strong stand, and he has said that they will stick to their pledge that they will only give one tax to one government. And also he has made a bold statement by saying that the ANTA does not feel threatened with such intimidation. Well, that was all for this hour's bulletin. For more news and updates, stay tuned to Hornbill TV. Goodbye.